Mom. Hi, Dad.
Hi.
Okay, I'm here with Sarah, and we are going to interview the both of you about some of your life memories. So,
You want to
first
date
question.
it, Beth? Why don't you put a date on it?
September 6, 2021. I know it's hard for you, Dad, not to be the interviewer.
I am interviewee now
Today you're the interviewee
with a laryngitis.
with laryngitis. So, Mom, we'll start with you. What's one of your best childhood memories?
Okay, well, I had to think about this. Because I realized that when I was born in West Philadelphia, we had this tiny little 2-bedroom home.
What year was that?
And so I was born in 47, and we didn't move till I was 9. And I really have so few memories of my life until I was 9 years old. I mean, they weren't like, there was nothing there that I would say was a wonderful memory, okay? But then we moved to East Falls. And I think that was probably like the best time for me. I was like finishing up 4th grade, and all of a sudden I was at this new school, and I realized like I had a lot of different talents that I didn't know I could expose myself to. But like the teachers saw it in me, and all of a sudden like I was popular, and I had all these friends, and I was like in a new setting. And it was like, to me, that was like the best thing that I remember, because we moved so much when I was younger that was probably the one move that kind of settled me into who I was. So I think that's my best childhood memory. So, because I saw, if I played the violin, I excelled in the violin. If I was in a school show, the teacher always knew that I would be a good study. If I was, when the mayor came to visit the school, I was the one who presented to him.
Aww.
So it was like, all of a sudden, like I was shining in my setting, and I never had that before. So I'm going to say that the years that I lived in East Falls were my most inspiring years. And I went from the end of 4th grade to 7th grade. So that's my fondest memory.
You were there. How many times did you move?
So we moved to West Philly. I was born in West Philly. We moved to East Falls. We moved to Logan. We moved to the Northeast. So it took me to 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools. So, and I didn't realize it I didn't realize it at the time, but here's something that I always used to have. You know how like you have, not nightmares, but you have like very restless evenings where your mind is on things. And it was always the same thing over and over again. I was always lost in school, and I couldn't find my locker. And I realized that it had to do with how many times we moved. And I was always scared starting the schools. And what's my roster? I can't find my classes. I can't find my locker. And it was a reoccurring dream that I would have. So I guess I have to relate that to how many times I had to readjust every time we moved. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Dad, what's one of your best childhood memories?
Today is Sunday, September the 6th, 2001, a day that will live in infamy. My best childhood memory, one of my best childhood memories, was going to Atlantic City in the summertime in my father's 1950 Buick, along with my sister, parents, grandparents on my mother's side, Benjamin and Cecilia Resnick. In the summertime, those recall very powerful memories, because my grandmother would always pack a bag of food, fried chicken, because God forbid we might run out of food and be very hungry on the way to Atlantic City, which was about 64 miles away. So you had to stop and have the chicken dinners at the side of the road. That was one of my favorite memories.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, next question. So, Mom, you were talking about what you were like in middle school. So what were you like in high school? Tell us about your high school years.
Yeah, well, actually, the school I was telling you about was really elementary school.
Oh, fourth grade, that's right.
Fourth grade, right. But high school, because again, I went to one high school for 9th and 10th grade, and another high school for 11th and 12th grade. I'm going to say that I was quiet, but if I look back, I was quiet, but I was brave. Like it took me, starting a new school in 11th grade, I wanted to do things, and it took me to get to my senior year to try out for things, because I had to be brave enough to do that. And so, and I did. I was like, I joined the dance club, and I joined the gym team, and at the time we were called red suit leaders. So if you excelled in gym, everybody wore a blue gym suit. You wore a red suit because you demonstrated to the rest of the class every time the teacher wanted a demonstrator to do something. So again, it took me a little while to be brave enough to do this in strange schools each time. So I'm going to say I was quiet but brave.
I love that, quiet but brave. Dad, what were you like in high school?
I'm going to keep it short and simple. What I was like in high school, I transferred from a very educational high school, Central High School, of which I had been in the class of 215, to Olney High School, and which I enjoyed. There were girls there. And I guess what I was like in high school was trying to find my way.
Why did you transfer from Central to Albany?
Because I really didn't have the background for it. It was a more educated environment.
At Central?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know anything in those days about tutors or getting help with my studies. My parents couldn't help me, and I wasn't ready for Central. I liked the bowling alley.
Albany had a good bowling alley?
I mean, they did. 5-cent pinball machines.
Next question. Do you want to ask this
I
question?
could give you one more answer, Beth.
Please. And this is to the question, what
At high
were you
school.
like in high school? Okay.
In high school, on Friday nights, I'd open up the gym and have basketball. And at the time, I always liked chemistry. So I had a laboratory in my garage. Pretty good with a Bunsen burner. So along with a friend of mine, Steve Weinstein, we used to go in Friday nights to the Olney High School and visit the chemistry department, because we had access to the keys to open up the doors in the chemistry department. That's another very good reason why I liked high school.
You did some experiments there?
We had access to all kinds of goodies.
Unknown experiments?
Yep.
Okay.
Glassware too.
So, Mom, who's someone who inspired you growing up?
So I was thinking about that, and I'm probably going to say my Aunt Faye, because she was like my roommate, and she was.
What years was she your roommate?
So she was my 67 to 68, and when I was 2 years old, I lived with her for 3
Sarah,
months
give
in
me some more.
Virginia. I lived with her for 3 months in Virginia. It was really funny because I didn't know until very recently from Hope that Aunt Nina was very annoyed that I was the one who got to go to Aunt Faye's and not her. She was 5, I was 2. My mother had shingles, and she just couldn't take care of me and the diapers. Nina was in school. And I mean, what did I know at 2 years old that I was the one who went to Virginia? Do you know what I mean? But so I spent 3 months there with her at that time. Not that I really remember it, but I always felt this close connection. Aunt Faye was my mother's sister. So I think living with her for that year or more was very healthy for me, because she was a good role model for me. She really was. And even though she was my aunt, she was a friend, and we took care of each other, and we just had a very nice relationship.
When did you live with her again? So when you were 2 and...
And then when I was in 67 to 68, when my father died. My father died in
you were 18.
February of 67, and I lived with her until I got married. So it was really a year and a half that I lived with her. I was a student at the time at Phil Jeffer General Hospital. I was going for my med tech degree.
That's nice. And Dad, who's someone who inspired you growing up?
Actually, it was closest of family, multifactorial answer, but mostly it was my grandmother, my mother's side. Friday night, after school dinners, meet my cousins there at my grandmother's house at 1108 Somerville Avenue. And I still recall in 1948, I was about 5 going on 6. I remember her going in with the bus to New York to hear the Prime Minister of Israel come to America. What was his name again, Bill?
Her name.
Moshe Dayan? No, it was. Yeah, it was. Moshe Dayan.
Right.
I think. And she bought a Israeli savings bond for $100, and she went to New York on a bus to where the New York Knicks played basketball. Except that he didn't show Moshe Dayan because he asked the future president of Israel, the female Golda Meir, went. The goal was to raise $8 million, and she raised close to $50 to $60 million so they could buy armaments for their independence in 1948.
Wow. Great memory. Okay, next question. Okay, the best trip of your life, Mom.
So it's funny. I mean, Dad and I traveled a lot, but sometimes, you know, who you travel with can kind of take away from your travels, sort of, if you know what I mean. So when I really thought, what was the trip that I probably was most excited about, and I realized it was our honeymoon. It was just the two of us, and it was the first time I'd been anywhere, and probably the best trip was our honeymoon.
Where
I mean,
did you guys go?
not that I didn't love our family trips, because I did, but I would say our honeymoon, and second I would say Aruba.
Aruba?
Yeah.
And just the two of you again.
Yeah.
So all of us fighting took away. Dad, what was the best trip of your life?
Again, you want to divide this into the early part and then the late part. But the best trip of my life was actually the honeymoon with my bride, 1968. And then that second best trip was Hawaiian Adventure, 1969. When I was teaching school, we went to Hawaii and Las Vegas and San Francisco.
That's awesome. Okay, next question. Mom, you first. When did you know you wanted to marry each other?
I'm going to say a few months after we met. Because actually, Dad gave me his fraternity pin not that long after we met, and he was very clear that if I accepted that pin, it meant that we were going to have a future together.
Is that what it meant? Goodness.
Dad, you.
To answer the question, most likely was at the fraternity party on 13th Street at the AZO house. And there was a pharmacy social, and the pharmacy had invited some sorority systems from University of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia General Hospital, et cetera, and Barbara showed up with her girlfriend to the fraternity party, and there was a pool table there. and I was playing pool, and then Barbara shot some pool, and she wanted to know if I wanted her phone number. And I said, I don't know if she was 18 yet. She may have been. And I said, I'll give you a call when you turn 18.
Great.
And I ended up calling her the next week anyway, so.
Were you in this story? You're shaking your head.
I probably would have told the story differently. I probably would have told the story differently.
So for you, Dad, you're saying it was love at first sight.
It was like getting struck by a lightning bolt.
Oh, I love that.
I'll take that.
Yeah, she'll
I'll
take
take
that.
that for it. I'll take that for it.
Okay.
The next question is, what was the most important thing your parents taught you? Or someone who was the most influential as you were growing up taught you?
Okay, I'm going to say one word: respect. I feel that when I think back to my childhood and my parents, my sister and I were brought up to be good girls and be respectful. And there was, there was no, whatever we were able to obtain from our growing up years, there was always that piece of respect that was expected and that we just naturally had because it was part of the family upbringing.
And that stayed with you.
Yeah.
Dad, what about you? The most important thing your parents taught you, or someone who was influential taught you?
Well, I think not that my parents taught me, it's what you glean off the relationship of being around your parents, grandparents, again, community, Jewish community, grandparents, and in those days it was a totally different time, and didn't have fancy cars, didn't have fancy clothes, didn't have a ton of money, didn't take a lot of trips, didn't live in a fancy neighborhood, lived by the shoestring sometimes. I guess it would be to be independent and self-sufficient and to give back to charity. That was important. And the charity could be outside the house or inside the house.
No matter what you had or didn't
No
have.
matter what you had.
Always give back. Beautiful. Okay, next question. What's something about our heritage, Judaism, that you want future generations to know or not forget?
Yeah, so that was, there's plenty of answers to that, but I think that for me, the feeling of belonging to a people, belonging to everything that being Jewish represents. It's that I'm a part of that. It doesn't have to be, for me, there's not a specific thing. It's just a general concept that you belong to that community.
That's nice. Dad, what about you?
This is a nice question about heritage Judaism.
Right, that you want
And-
future generations to know or not forget.
My answer is one, never forget, because the times that we live in aren't the best of times for the Jewish people. And another one is forgiveness. This one I can't read.
You thought about it. You want me to say I'm pretty good at interpreting your handwriting? Let's see.
Sorry.
Give back, honor thy father and mother.
So that's at the end.
Okay, it's help others, never forget, forgiveness, give back.
Oh, is that what it is?
Give back
Forgiveness?
to give back, and honor thy father and mother.
Right, correct.
I am pretty good at interpreting handwriting.
And this is something that to give back, never forget, forgiveness. and to give back to the community, to help others, and honor thy father and mother, which we did.
Yeah, you guys definitely did that. And instilled that in your children. Next question. Okay. What is something you learned later in life that you want to pass along? Mom.
So I think, and I wouldn't have learned it till later, till I was an adult myself, but how being a part of a community can be so fulfilling. Like everything that you do within a community just fills your heart, and it's just very meaningful, and it makes you, it makes your life full.
That's so true. So nice. Dad, what about you? What's something you learned later in life that you want to pass along?
What I learned later in life is to keep striving in the face of adversity and to seek out your passions in life. If it was kind of rough going to medical school after becoming graduating pharmacy school and then teaching for 5 years with getting a master's degree, so it was a long road to hoe.
That you pursued your passion. Okay, next question. I love how much thought you guys have given into these questions. Okay, so what is an accomplishment in your life you're most proud of or hold dear to your heart?
Very simple, having a family.
Aw.
My turn. The question is, what is an accomplishment that I'm very proud of and hold on to? Dear to my heart.
Oh,
You
wait.
okay?
Okay, so Mom, to the question, what was an accomplishment you're most proud of? You said your family, and Dad, how about you?
I'm the first generation going to college in my family. I was trying to think if my Aunt Florence went to college, but I don't think she did. Her husband did, Al. But I think I was the first generation going to college and becoming a professional and
Need some help there?
becoming a professional and completing medical school was very dear to my heart after my pre-education, because I was a late bloomer in life. I was coming from a family that was blue collar and going into white collar, but never really knew that.
Yeah.
And I had a passion of helping people, and I liked it.
That's so nice.
10.
Okay, next question. What are some of your life values or somebody say a kind of a life mantra that you would, something that you want to pass on? Mom?
So this kind of is the same theme that we've been going through, but be a good person, be caring, and give to others.
Love that. Dad?
I guess my greatest mantra that I want to pass on, what I'm so proud of, is seeing all our children marrying in the Jewish faith, which you really don't see these days. And watching the success of our children's accomplishments, that they've all become self-sufficient professionals, having a real nice family, kids, etc. And there's community in the family, and I'm proud of that.
That's really nice. Okay, next question. So, what would be the theme song of your life, or if you could star in one movie or TV sitcom or musical, what would it be?
So I would pick the song by Kelly Clarkson, "What Doesn't Kill You Makes You Stronger."
It's a good song.
That's my my theme.
It's a good song.
Did you pick one on?
Yeah, I did. To life, l'chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim, to life. And that's a very happy song.
It is a happy song.
It's a good song.
It's a happy song. Okay. I love how all the thought you guys put into this. Okay, next question. So regrets are a natural part of life. Do you have any regrets you would want others to learn from? Mom.
Not really. My answer is not really.
That's good.
I do. It was not going to my friend's wedding. Len Jaffe, who was in Florida, a lawyer, in 1968?
Yes.
And
Later.
we had, or 1969, somewhere around there. And we had got married, went to a trip to Florida the same year, went to another friend's wedding, and Len Jaffe decided to get married. It was be our fourth time. We just didn't have the money, so we sent a gift, but we explained why we couldn't go. So Len took it very badly and lost a friend, and so if we could redo it, we would have borrowed money and gone to Florida to his wedding.
Or skip one of the other trips.
Well, we didn't know because at the time his invitation came later.
Mm.
And beware of strangers in wolves in sheep's clothing. Beware of strangers dressed as wolves in sheep's clothing, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Next question.
Next question. How do you want to be remembered? That is, how do you want your loved ones to remember you, and how do you want to be honored? Sort of two in one question, perhaps.
Yes. I think personality-wise, if I'm remembered as a strong and determined person.
Beautiful. You completely are. Your strength came out in many, many ways this past couple of years.
You can expand on that answer if you want.
Yeah, and
I kept it short.
You have more words in you.
I actually
she's
at
getting
the,
emotional.
at the end
She
I
will.
do want to share some other things.
Okay. And how about to the question how you would want to be honored? Do you have anything to?
Well, I think that answers both the questions.
Okay.
As somebody who is strong and determined.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. And what about you, Dad? How do you want to be remembered, and how do you want your loved ones to remember you, and how do you want to be honored?
As a good man who did the right thing and took the right path, who put his children on the right path and a Judaic path.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
These questions gave us reason to think them through and to, and sometimes a short answer is the best answer.
Like the first thing that comes into your mind is you have different parts of your life.
But I would like, because this is kind of like the history of us growing up, I did want to expand. It didn't really fit into any of these questions, but
Please.
it's important to understand, I said I started my life when I was 9 and we moved. But growing up, Dad came from a family who very limited funds. My family was poorer than that. My father sometimes didn't have a job. And then, and he worked very hard. When the weekends, he would go to the parks and the stadiums, and he would be walking around with the food on his back and trying to sell things. And I can remember sometimes, he'd come home from these excursions and he'd make $6 for the day. And, he counted on those dollars for living that week. So we were, we just didn't have the means. And the house that we lived in West Philly, like I said, it was a tiny little 2-bedroom house. The tub was on legs. It was one of those old-fashioned tubs. But also the house was infested with water bugs. And I can, like Aunt Nina and I would remember, we had like a little vestibule that we'd walk into first before you have an outside door, you walk into a vestibule, and then you'd have another door to get into your living room. And we'd have to like turn the lights on from the vestibule and wait till everybody scattered back into the walls again before we could step into our house. And you know, that's the one thing that Aunt Nina and I always talked about, having to grow up in a house that was full of order books. And you know, like it wasn't and we stayed in the neighborhood when it had really changed. Like I was the only white kid in my class by the time we moved. It was just a very changed neighborhood. And not that that's a negativity, not that that's a negativity as far as you know, who I would be with, but you know, the neighborhood was getting run down and everything. And so when we moved to a low income housing. It was called projects at the time. And I think that's why I was saying that it was East Falls, when we moved to East Falls, that I started to realize who I was, because I didn't really have the chance when I lived in West Philadelphia. And of course, the first time we moved into our apartment, we lived in an apartment then, the first week we were there, we had bed bugs. And it was like we just couldn't get away from this whole thing with bugs. And like my sister and I would always, you know, that was like the panicky things in us as little girls growing up. But I think one thing that inspired me was 3 of my best friends who was in my, you know, like surroundings where I lived. My friend Dina, her parents were both Holocaust survivors. They were both in the camps. She was actually born in a camp. My other friend Yvonne, she came with her mother and brother. They were in France, and they also were wartime. You know, they all wore numbers on their arms, and I think that watching their parents with them was kind of inspiring for me. I mean, they went through so much to get here, and so that was like something I wasn't familiar with prior to that time. So just that whole experience was moving to East Falls was a huge growing experience for me, which I didn't know at the time was, but when I look back on my childhood, I see how influential all these different pieces were for me.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Wait, hold on one second. Where are those girls today, like the ones that you mentioned?
So, I don't know what happened to Yvonne. She was a half year older than me, and Dina was a half year younger than me. Dina, we were at each other's weddings. Actually, she was married 3 times, but her first marriage was to Bill Wine, who was the movie critic on one of the radio shows all the years. And that marriage didn't last that long. And it's really funny because then she went out to California, she was married, then she came back here, she married a dentist. And I met her, and she happens to live in Ronnie and Robbins Development. And I met her in those more recent years, and when I met her, I thought, oh, I don't like this person at all. Like, there was just something about her that as an adult, we just did not click whatsoever.
That's funny.
But you know, we were girlfriends when we were, you know.
Right, her and her family contributed to some of your learning.
Absolutely, and
when you were younger.
and because of her parents knew how to, like Jewish Family and Children's Service, like because they were immigrants, they were
How to navigate the system.
How to navigate the system. So Dina was going to go to Camp Council, which was a Jewish camp, and it was based upon on a sliding scale what she could afford. And so I, of course, ran home to my parents, and they said, oh, I have a chance to go to camp. And I mean, we were so poor, I went for free. But so Dina and I went off to camp. Like, I don't think I would have known, like, I was the one who had to initiate it through her to tell my parents what to do to make all this happen. So, there were, you know, those types of learning experiences that I think started my climbing up the ladder to understand that I had to control my own life and kind of push for what I wanted to do and be.
Yes.
You know, I mean, because like I know when my father died, he was only 48, and my mother's family, absolutely everyone thought I needed to go out to work and make money and bring it home to the family, and I just didn't see that being my future. I just needed to do more. I was decent in school, and I had the capability to do more, and so found this free program and Philadelphia General Hospital for med techs, and got accepted. There were 12 people accepted. I got accepted, and I went. And I used to have to work on the weekend so I could have money for car fare to get there every day. But I made it work. And even though other people thought it wasn't the direction I should have taken, I knew I wasn't cut out to just graduate high school and be a secretary and leave it at that. It just wasn't who I was.
Yeah.
So I kind of was determined to find another path for myself.
That thread of determination.
Yep. But you know what? I can't say I had an unhappy childhood. I had a happy childhood. What we didn't have, I didn't know that it was missing. You know?
Right.
And it didn't make for a bad childhood. It just meant for things were lacking.
Made you stronger.
Yep.
Made you who you are today.
Do you have more feelings?
Hmm?
Do you have more feelings?
Feelings? If I get started, it may not stop. You know?
This was very nice that you did this with us, Beth.
Yeah, I could
Oh,
give
I'm
one.
so happy.
I'd like to give one more fill-in.
Okay. Wait, hold
You
on.
know.
Hold on. Okay, Dad, you wanted to say something else. Go ahead.
When I started my practice in 1977, 78, and then I heard Mitch with his bull over there, knocking off his bull in a happy state. And I was making a lot of money, but I was making a few dollars. And what I learned was that my parents were having a hard time with their economics. Father, I think, retired, lost his job, I'm not sure. And they had some issues. Their car was dying and their refrigerator was dying. So I took my mother to a Oldsmobile dealership. And I told her, don't tell them I'm a physician, I'm a doctor, because I know I'll be able to bargain with them. So my mother, Sarah with the H.
Without the H?
No, Sarah had the H. She did. On her birth certificate, there's an H on there.
I think depending on, she
Yes.
sometimes had it on, sometimes didn't, right?
And I took her to the car place, and she saw this brown Oldsmobile that she simply loved, and she just went nuts. And the salesman was with us. My mother got so excited, she said, "This is my son, the doctor." So he smiled at me and said, "Nope, I'm not going to go down there anymore. You got to pay the price." And the other thing I want to say is that it's me and Barbara have given our children a college education debt-free, which I thought was very important, and professional school too, which was very important. To give back to our own family and to see them succeed without the burden of college costs. And that was one thing Mom and I were most proud of also.
Oh, yeah, and we're all extremely fortunate for that. Yes, especially as I too are going off. I definitely appreciate that.
Well, this was wonderful, Beth.
Love you both.
And Sarah without the H.
We love you more.